So The Eyes of Ghana is a feature-length documentary that follows Chris Hesse, who's a 93-year-old cinematographer who is the personal cinematographer to a man named Kwame Nkrumah, who was sort of an erased world leader who led the liberation movement in the 1950s and 60s across the continent of Africa. And Chris shot hundreds of films of Kwame Nkrumah. And in the 66 coup, when Nkrumah was thrown out of office, the films were burned and thought to have been burned for many decades. But when I met Chris a few years ago, he confided in me that indeed he had kept the negatives in a vault in London all these years, and that sparked the beginning of the story to begin this film and this movement to attempt to digitize and repatriate, the origin story of the liberation of Africa.
I got to know of Chris Hesse. Well, I met him when I was making my own short film titled Perished Diamonds. And I interviewed him for the film. And the film was about the situation with Ghana's film archives. And so that is how I built a relationship with him. And he told me a lot about Kwame Nkrumah, about how he has kept the films in London, and how he reminds government every year to keep paying the rent for the films. So when he told me about it, I really wanted to be in his corner, because also he knows so much. He's so knowledgeable, and he's such a charming person. My relationship with him graduated to something like a grandfather-granddaughter relationship. It's been a real privilege knowing him, spending so much time with him, sharing in this history. And I am even more grateful that this film has been made while he is still with us.
So, yes, Chris Hesse was with Kwame Nkrumah for a little over a decade. And so his coming and goings across the world were captured by Chris Hesse. You see Nkrumah at the UN. You see Nkrumah at the African All Peoples Conference, or I feel like I always get that name right.
All People's Congress.
All
African People's Conference. Yeah. And then there's this great moment where he's flying a paper plane, which we love so much because you hardly get to see images of Nkrumah as like this sort of fun, jovial person, which was a big thing I remember Anita speaking to that. Just like not only seeing Nkrumah as, making these really grand, important statements for a liberated Africa, but seeing him sort of as a human being and no longer sort of this like mythical person over there.
It's such a filmmaker's film in that way, because it's about a cinematographer, and we wanted to bring an aesthetic that was obviously like modern and relevant and now, but also kind of paid homage to Chris and his work. And we knew we were going to be showing a lot of his archival from the film. We've made a lot of films in 4:3 aspect ratio, which is what a lot of his Chris Hesse's films are screened in as well. So it was a no-brainer for us there to finish the film in 4:3, and shot a lot on Super 16 zooms. I did for a lot of the modern day stuff, just to kind of maintain that aesthetic that he had back in the day as well. And then, we were lucky enough to partner with IMAX for this finale screening that we did to shoot on 65 millimeter 15 perf, just because they loved the story so much, and we wanted to bring the best possible imaging format to this movie, because we were scanning these 60-year-old films at the highest fidelity possible, and we thought, for the end of our movie, what's the best possible version that we can make? And it involves, the best possible imaging format. And so they donated a camera for the shoot, and we got to do that for the movie, which was special for everybody. And it was like a full collaboration of the Canadian and Ghanaian and American filmmakers on the crew, and really special for Chris Hesse as well.
How did you choose what to digitize?
Great question. I mean, that's when we got there and we saw this wall of reels. We said, "Oh, well, where do we begin?" And there was a list. There's a catalog of what's in there that Chris Hesse had. It took some time to go through and write it all out. And he guided us. He said, "This is the one." it was actually remarkable. He remembered like, oh, do this, and oh, this has unused things that I shot for the end credits of the movie, which is all this beautiful, all this special fabric from Ghana, this special patterns and things that are under our end credits. That Chris Hesse shot that for the end credits of some film that he had made and pointed at, oh, that might be good, So he guided us in that direction of which ones might have the best scenes in it. And we also prioritized ones that seemed to maybe be on the brink of, this might go sour soon. And then we were mostly just limited by our credit card limit. There are over 1,000 films there. I mean, it's a big project. So I think we scanned something like 45.
40, yeah.
Yeah, something like around, a few dozen films. But it's just a fraction of the whole. And that's just Ghana's history. So, it speaks to, if you think about the continent or around the world, there's so much film that we just haven't seen that has never been seen. And that has been suppressed or erased for political reasons. And now is the time when we have to go find that stuff and bring it to light.
In history class and in high school, you only get to know that they only tell you Kwame Nkrumah became a dictator and he elected himself for life. But it is also so nuanced. This thing about he not wanting to take sides with America or with Russia, which in some way also led to his demise. It's not thought. There are a lot of people in Ghana who don't quite know this. The material that is used in the film, the archival material that is used in the film that shows that nuance is so important. There's so many history lessons in the film that many Ghanaians are yet to see and to understand. And I think it also goes to show that Nkrumah was doing what he thought was right at the time. Mm-hmm. He was, like Chris Hesse says, he was a human being. And the film is not looking to investigate whether Nkrumah was a good person or bad person. It just seeks to tell the story of this man, Chris, who filmed all of this, who wants Ghanaians to see it. Mm-hmm.
And I'll also add that Nkrumah was a leader who had a deep sense of urgency. While other leaders were like, we'll have independence soon one day, he said it has to be now, which made him inconvenient. And so even when you see in the film, we have the press conference where Nkrumah's at the White House with President Kennedy, and President Kennedy is talking about Americans being revolutionary people and wanting the same things for themselves as they want for Nkrumah, and then seeing how that changes, right? It's just, I think it goes to show that sometimes, unfortunately, I think when we think about like African leaders or sort of, it doesn't always apply in the same ways, which is an unfortunate truth, and I think is what we saw happen.
I mean, it was beyond special, not only for this film, but just our time in Accra and our relationships with the filmmaking team in Ghana, which was big and expansive. And, it was special for them to see it happen as well. And the response to, in the film, Anita is trying to get people to come, but at the end of the day, there was just an outpouring of love for people showing up to the screening. And we had actually, they're featured in the film, but this father and his two sons, and he came to the screening, he had heard about it, and he said, I came to this theater when I was my son's age, and I saw movies here. And he now I'm bringing my two sons, and we're sitting in the front row of the Rex Cinema watching Nkrumah on the screen, mm-hmm. and they were crying, and they were so fascinated by the filmmaking process. Us as well. After the screening, we got their contact, and we're also hoping to bring this film back to the Rex Cinema and do a screening there for the community. And one of the main impact goals of this film as well is to try to endow the cinema so that it can stay around and be a communal space for the community in Accra.
Yeah, the worldwide rights are available at this time. It's a little different. I mean, the world of short documentaries is different than feature documentary. And I found that it's, the economics are much more, present in feature documentary distribution than they are in short films, which is kind of a shame, right? Because it distracts from what's the movie really about? What's the purpose about this thing? And what is our goal? And I am profoundly grateful to have a partner like Higher Ground, who from the beginning has said, this is not about money. We have to obviously pay back, our investors who helped us make the movie. But beyond that, how could we put $1 in the piggy bank knowing that this archive needs to be digitized? How can we put $1 in the piggy bank knowing that, the Rex ought to be restored, and GAFTA, who's the Ghanaian, academy, kind of like BAFTA, but in Ghana, so wants that to be a communal cinema space. So we've committed that any profits that come from the distribution of the film will go to those causes. And for us, that's the best and highest use of any documentary, is one where you can sweep people into an important story and then begin a movement to make real change in the world. And I've seen that happen with our films. To me, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, is when we can turn a documentary into a movement of people towards a noble undertaking, noble goal, which I believe this is. Both Nana and I are Canadian. And, I think especially, I came down the escalator at the airport and I found tears in my eyes, which I didn't expect. I'm very proud to be Canadian and to be here, to have the honor of having the opening night position in this special year of Toronto's 50th anniversary it's extraordinary. And I look back at our first conversations about this movie and maybe we can put something together and maybe we can help tell the story, to now being on the world stage as this film now is. It is awesome. It's extraordinary, and it just makes me very, very proud to be Canadian and part of this team.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.